Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series on R Embedded Systems. Myself Professor Ravani Kalur, professor in the Department of ENC, KLS VDIT Haryana. We are at module number 3, lecture number 28. We have learned about the onboard communication interfaces. Onboard communication interfaces, for example, we have learned I2C, that is interconnection bus communication interface, and then we have seen what is called SPI, that is serial peripheral interface, and also we have seen what is called as the parallel wire interface, one wire protocol, and so on. So in that particular video we have learned in detail about the communication interfaces, and the onboard interfaces are required when we have all those devices connected on a single PCB or a single board, and when we try to communicate or when we try to interlink the systems, at that time we need to be using the communication interfaces. So when the device or the ICs are not there on your single PCB, then we will go for the off-board communication interfaces. Off-board communication interface is nothing but when I have a device with which I want to interact with the system presently. So in that particular cases, I will be connecting them with another instrument or another means by which I can communicate with the other ICs. So to do this, I'll be using a device called as off-board communication interfaces. Off-board communication interfaces, again they come in several variations. It starts with a basic RS-232, RS-435, RS-485 and so on, to the USB, to the Zigbee, your internet or your Wi-Fi. So it goes on dependingly how you want to communicate with the other system or other devices which are not there on your board. So in today's lecture we'll study about the off-board and off-board communication interfaces which will communicate with the devices present in the off-board condition. Okay. We'll see what is external communication interface, its definition and then its types, and later we'll see the working of each in detail. Fine. So external communication interface. External device, or it may be a and so on. Right? So the first one is RS-232 or RS-485. RS-232C is the recommended standard number 232 version C is. This is a legacy. It is a full duplex wired asynchronous serial communication interface. Full duplex means at a time it will send the data as well as receive the data, and it is a wired connection. It is asynchronous means that you don't have a clock which is synchronizing the things. And this RS-232 was developed by the industry, that is Electronic Industry Association, EIA, during the early 1960s. RS-232 extends the UART communication signals for external data communication. UART uses a single TTL CMOS logic. So logic high corresponds to bit value 1, logic low corresponds to bit value 0. For bit transmission, whereas RS-232 uses IEEE standard for the bit arithmetic. Okay. So here what happens is logic 0 is represented by value between +3 to +25, and logic 1 is represented by -3 to -25. This is a EIA standard set for that particular RS-232. So logic 0 is known as also space, and logic 1 is named as mark. 232 implements various handshaking and control signals for the communication apart from the transmit and receive signals for the data communication. So RS-232 comes with two types of connectors. One is called DB9 and the other one is DB25. DB9 is a pin, but we will be having this particular connection where we have 9 ports, okay, 9 pins, whereas here there are 25. So this 9 pin connector, whatever we have, DB9, this we have used in our ARM lab to have a communication between the ARM kit and the processor. So this is a pin description. It uses a transmitter, receiver, request to send, clear to send, data set ready, ground, and data carrier detect, data transmission terminal ready, and RI is your room indicator. All these are the pin numbers used in the pin number 9 connector. These are the pin number 25 connector, that is DB25 connector it is, and each pin is used for one particular purpose. Then coming to the next one, that is universal universal serial bus. Universal serial bus is a wired high-speed serial bus for the data communication. The first version of USB was released in the year 1995, and USB communication system follows a star topology using which USB host at the center and yellow USB at the surrounding will be connected to it. So the USB can support connections up to 127, including the slave peripherals and other USB hosts. Okay, so then this, which is the figure which illustrates the topology of the USB. So via which you will be connecting with that particular thing and the communication will happen. So USB transmits the data in the packet format. Each data packet has a standard format and it is a host initiated one. Okay, the communication is a host initiated one. So USB host contains a host controller which is responsible for controlling the data communication, including establishing connectivity with the slave devices, packetizing and formatting the data. And there are different standards for implementing the USB host control interface. One is OHSI, that is Open Host Control Interface, and the other one is UHCI. So this is Universal Host Control Interface. So the physical connection between a USB peripheral and a master device is established via a USB cable, and the USB cable supports communication distance up to 5 meters. So the USB standard uses two different types of connector at the ends of the USB cable for connecting the USB terminal to the host device. That is type A. The type A connector is used for the upstream connection and type B connector for downstream connection. So downstream and upstream are nothing but whenever we connect it with respect to host and with respect to the slave device, it is called as upstream and the downstream respectively. So the USB connector present in the desktop PC or laptop are examples of type A USB connectors. And both type A and type B connector will be having 4 pins. This is what is the 4 pins what are there in the type A. So this is a type A connector, this is a type B connector, and this one is type C. This type C, most of us have seen their mobile adapters or mobile chargers. This side it is the connection what will go to PC to a mobile. In that particular case, we will be connecting this to the PC. So this is the USB type A connector. Which normally we will connect it to the processors to give the communication between the processor to the board. Okay, so USB uses different signals for the data transmission. It can supply the power up to 500 milliamps and at 5 volts of power supply. So each micro USB device contains a product ID and a vendor ID embedded into a USB chip by the USB device manufacturer. So the vendor ID is supplied by the USB standards forum and the product ID will be there in the manufacturing data sheet. So USB supports 4 different types of data transfer. One is called a control transfer. Control transfer means the It is used by the USB system software to query, configure and issue commands to the USB device. Bulk transfer is nothing but used for sending block of data to the device. It supports error checking, error correction, and it also supports the to a printer. Is an example for your bulk transfer. Data transfer, this is used for real-time data communication whenever the data is transmitted in real time. Okay, and whenever it is in real time, it does not check for the error checking and retransmission of the data. All streaming devices like audio devices, medical equipment for data collection make use of this isochronous data transfer. And the fourth type of transfer is interrupt transfer. It is used for transferring small amount of data. Interrupt transfer mechanism makes use of a polling technique to see whether the USB has any data to send. And the frequency of polling is determined by the USB device. It varies from 1 to 255 milliseconds. This USB.org is a standard body for defining and controlling the standards of the USB communication. So when I use different types of USB, the data rates also vary. Low speed, it uses say 1.5 Mbps. The full speed, it is 12 Mbps. High speed, it is 480 Mbps. Super speed, it will be 4 giga per second. Then super speed plus, that is SS plus, this is up to 10 Gbps data rate. Okay. Next type of communication interface is IEEE 1394 or the FireWire. 1394 supports peer-to-peer connection and point-to-point can be connected on a single bus, and it uses a tree topology. So 1394 is a wire serial interface and it can support a cable length of up to 15 feet for the interconnection. It supports the data rate of up to 400 to 3200 Mbps. And IEEE 1394 uses a differential data transfer, and it also increases the noise immunity. So the interface cable supports three types of connectors, namely 4-pin connector, 6-pin connector and a 9-pin connector. 6-pin and 9-pin connector carry power also to the supporting external devices. Okay, so the unregulated power supply of the range 24 to 30 volts will be used for this. So this is a 4-pin connector or a 6-pin connector, and this one is a 9-pin connector. So this depending upon whether I have a 4-pin connector, 6-pin connector or 9-pin connector, I will be having these numbers or the pin numbers, and along with that the pin description here. Okay. So for the 4-pin connector, I don't have a power supply through this. It uses here only TPP, TPB plus, TPA, TPL plus. Okay. Whereas for the 6-pin connector, I have a power and the ground. And for the 9-pin connector, we have along with all this, we'll be having here TPA, TPB, and this there are two different data transfer lines, that is A and B per connector. So what happens here is in one we line to normally different lines of A and B will be connected and the 1394 is a popular communication interface for connecting embedded devices like digital camera, camcorders, scanners to desktop computers. They don't require a host for communicating between the devices, and it is much costlier compared to the USB implementation. Then we have something called as infrared. Infrared is a serial half duplex line of sight based wireless technology, and the best example for this is TV remotes. Okay, so the TV remotes which work on this infrared, it is a communication which uses infrared waves of electromagnetic spectrum for the transmission of the data. And note that this uses point-to-point and point-to-multipoint communication, and the range of this IRDA lies between 10 centimeter to 1 meter, and the range can be increased by increasing the transmitting power of the IR device. So IR device, whatever we have, it ranges with a data rate of up to 9000 bits per second to 16 Mbps. And depending upon the data transmission, it can be classified into different types. One is called serial IR. It supports from 9600 to 115.2 kbps. And medium, this varies from 0.5 Mbps to 1.152 Mbps. And fast IR, it supports the data rate up to 4 Mbps. Very fast IR, it supports the data rate up to 16 Mbps. And ultra fast IR, this is giving us a output data rate which is more than 100 Mbps. Okay. So this IRDA, it involves for the transmitter, and the other side it will be having a photo diode. Okay. So as the device has a both transmitter and a receiver, it is also called as a transceiver. So the TV remote controls, your AC remote controls, everything work on the same criteria. And this regulatory body for this one is IR data communication, and it uses the specifications and the operating principles here. Okay, so this IRDA control protocol contains implementation for physical layer, MAC layer as well as logical link layer. So this IRDA is a popular interface for file exchange and data transfer, and it is a most prominent communication channel in the mobile phones before the Bluetooth was existing. This Bluetooth, this is a low cost, low power, short range wireless technology which many, and it operates at the frequency 2.4 gigahertz of the radio frequency spectrum, and it uses frequency hopping spread spectrum, what you have learned in the digital communication classes, and a range of approximately 30 feet for data communication. Okay. So Bluetooth physical link part is responsible for the physical transmission of data to the devices supporting Bluetooth communication, whereas the protocol part is responsible for defining the rules of communication. So here what happens is the physical link works on the wireless principle, making use of RF waves for communication. Bluetooth enabled devices essentially contain Bluetooth wireless radio for the transmission and reception of the data. Okay. So every Bluetooth device will be having a 48-bit unique identification number, and it follows a packet-based data transfer. And whenever you connect the point-to-point communication, then it will be using a master and slave relationship. It can either function as a master or it can function as a slave. Okay, when a network is formed with one Bluetooth as a master and more than one device as a slave, it is called as a piconet, and a piconet serves up to 7 slaves. Okay, so this uses the specification given by the Bluetooth special interest group, that is 5G. Coming to the next one, that is Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is wireless fidelity. This is a popular wireless communication technique for networked communication of the devices. This uses IEEE 802.11 standard. This is intended for network communication, and it supports internet protocol based communication. It is essential to have a device identity in a multi-port communication to address the specific devices for the based communication. Normally to access the IP address. And this Wi-Fi based communication require an intermediate agent called Wi-Fi router or Wi-Fi access point to manage all the communications. Wi-Fi router is responsible for restricting the access to a network, and once the access is permitted, you can use the network. And the hardware part of this is known as Wi-Fi radio. And Wi-Fi operates at a bandwidth of say 2.4 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz of the radio spectrum. And you can visualize this. We have a Wi-Fi router to which device 1, device 2, device 3 are connected. Again, this is a secure connection using a IP address and using a password. The things are connected. And it uses the range of up to 100 to 200 feet and operates up to a data rate of 1 Mbps to 1.73 Gbps. Then coming to the next one, which is a ZigBee. ZigBee is a low power, low cost wireless communication network protocol, and this is based on a IEEE standard, that is 802.15.4 2006. ZigBee is targeted for the low power, low data rate and secure application for the wireless personal area networking, that is WPN. Support a robust mesh networking containing multiple nodes. This networking strategy makes the network reliable by permitting messages to travel through a number of different paths to get from one node to the another node. ZigBee operates with a frequency of say 2.4 to 2.484, 902 to 902, no, sorry, 928 megahertz, 868 to 868.6. And the operating principle of this is 100 meters, and it provides a data rate of up to 20 to 250 Gbps. So every ZigBee, whatever model we have, it will be using this. One is a ZigBee coordinator or a network coordinator, ZigBee router, and then a ZigBee end device. So ZigBee coordinator acts as a route to the ZigBee network. The ZigBee coordinator is responsible for initiating the ZigBee network, and it has the capability to store the information in the network. And ZigBee router is responsible for passing the information from the device to another device or another device to another router. So ZigBee end device, that is ZED. This is an end device containing ZigBee, which has a functionality of data communication. It can talk to only ZigBee router or ZigBee coordinator. Okay. So this is a connection. This is a end device. So it can either talk to a ZigBee router or it can either talk to a ZigBee coordinator, whereas ZigBee routers can talk to ZigBee coordinators or they can talk internally. So ZigBee is primarily used in the targeting applications like home and industrial automation, energy management, and so on. So the automatic meter reading, the smoke detection, whatever the current working projects what we have, everything uses a ZigBee. So the ZigBee specifications are actually managed by the Alliance ZigBee Alliance company. And next is the GPRS. GPRS is a general packet radio service. So it is a communication technique for transferring data over mobile communication network like a GSM. So here what happens is the data is sent as packets in the GPRS communication, and the transmitting device splits the data into several related packets. At the receiving end, the data is reconstructed by combining all the received packets. So GPRS supports a theoretical maximum transfer of 171.2 kbps, whereas GPRS communication is a radio channel which is concurrently sharing the data between several users. Okay. So GPRS divides the channel into 8 time slots and transmits the data over the channel. It supports Internet Protocol, point-to-point protocol, as well as X.25 protocol. This is mainly used for mobile-enabled embedded devices, and the device should support necessary GPRS hardware like GPRS modem, GPRS radio. To accomplish this communication, a carrier network should be active on the GPRS. And GPRS is an old technology and it is being replaced by the new generation data communication techniques like Edge, high speed downlink packet access, and a long term evaluation, that is LTE. The better bandwidth compared to the GPRS. So in the today's lecture we have learnt about the different types of off-board communication interfaces and how they can be used. in the embedded system design. Okay, so we'll meet in the next video. Until then, take care.